Hello, I'm going to review the LightwaveRF series of products, which are quite a large range of products available in the UK market for a reasonable price, and you can set it up in a modular way, so you only need to buy one or two products to begin with, and then you can add extra as you go along. Now, I'm looking at this from a home automation point of view. Now that LightwaveRF and its Lightwave Link are now IFTTT compatible, you can use them to help automate all daily tasks. So first of all, I'm going to have a look at some of the products that are available, and then I'm going to look at how IFTTT can help you automate some daily tasks and give you some examples. This is one of the standard LightwaveRF controllers. It is white and glossy in colour and has a silver rim. It's actually really attractive considering some of the other brands of controller that you can get. This does actually fit in with your decor at home. You can get it in this shiny glossy white, or you can get it in a black colour as well. The controller itself can control up to 16 devices, which are controlled via the on-off buttons from 1 to 4, as you can see there. There is also an all-off button which switches off all devices that are connected to this remote, and there is a one scene button which will recall a scene which you've pre-programmed, and again that will recall on all the 16 devices. The way you can control up to 16 devices is by using these 4 buttons and the switch down at the bottom, and there is a switch here. Don't know if I'm going to be able to focus that closely, but there is a switch there between A and D. If you switch it to A, then these 4 buttons are now set to room or section A, and you can change that to get a new set of 4 buttons, so to speak. So you just have to remember which set of buttons control what, but the on-off switch and the scene switch control all 16 devices, regardless of where this switch is positioned. You do get some feedback from the controller. There is a light at the top here that lights up when you've actually clicked the buttons, and the buttons do 2 functions. They are both on-off and dim. So if you have a LightwaveRF dimming device, such as one of the bulbs or a dimming plug, which you can buy for existing lamps, then if you press and hold the button rather than push it once, it actually starts a dimming cycle. This is another type of controller which is more credit card shaped. It again is glossy white, but it is a lot thinner and easier to pocket. It controls 2 devices, as you can see. Again, it works in exactly the same way as the previous controller, on and off, and there's also an all-off button which will switch both of the devices which are connected to this controller. The other thing to remember with these controllers is that you can actually pair more than one device with the same switch. So if you're always switching on the same couple of devices at the same time, then you can pair them with the same switch. So you can control really quite a few different devices at the same time using these buttons. So for example, if you had this as a room switch, you could switch off the whole of the living room with one button. You can switch the whole of the kitchen off with another, regardless of how many devices are actually in that room. This is called a master room switch, and it is used to be placed either instead of or alongside a standard United Kingdom light switch. It will fit into an old light switch box, or you can stick it using the self-adhesive tape that's provided with it, and it controls several devices. You can control several with this. Just like with the other controllers, however, this is wall mounted, so it's easy to find. There's also an all-off button, and there's a mood switch here for 1, 2 and 3 for 3 different mood settings. In another one of my vlogs, I'll probably put on how I worked around this. I'll show you some photos of what I've done, and I created a template which I printed out, laminated, and then stuck onto the front of these so that occupants of the flat knew exactly what these buttons do. These buttons can be mood switches, and these can be on and off switches. However, you can also configure using a switch on the back for these to be moods as well. So you can end up with 5 different moods and then an all-off button as well. Okay, so here are a couple of different types of sockets which are available to control from LightwaveRF. and the first one here is a more of a premium model. It actually does more things as well. You'll see that again it is glossy white and it has a silver rim. It matches the Lightwave controllers perfectly, and it does look kind of quite premium. It also has a switch on the side for learning and forgetting controllers, and you use that for using a series of clicks and pressing and holding in order to learn controllers. And it also switches the device that you have on or off without needing a controller, so you can actually click the side of this plug in order to switch the device on or off. It has a light down here which lights up in different colours, showing you the status of the device. It's either orange for off or blue for on. There is another version of this plug which is a dimmer, and that can control obviously floor lights, lamps, bedroom lights, etc. that are plugged into the wall. And this again is a useful item. This one is just the on-off switch, and you can tell the difference because down here at the bottom next to the LightwaveRF logo there's usually the text that says dimmer on it if it is actually a dimmer. The other type of plug-in module is this one, which is called a basic, and this one is exactly the same really as this one, but it doesn't have any of the functionality of switching using a button on the side. And in order to learn devices, you simply plug this in, switch it on, it goes into learning mode straight away, and then you send an on command from that particular controller in order to register it. My pro tip with this one is, it took me ages to work out how to actually clear the memory of this plug because there are no buttons on it, so I didn't know how to unregister all of the controllers and then start again with this plug. And what you have to do is you plug it into the hole in the wall, plug it into the power, make sure it starts flashing, and then you can send a all off button command from any LightwaveRF controller. Send the all off command, then no registered controllers will actually work any further with this device. So that's how you unregister devices with that. This is a dusk till dawn sensor which uses a light sensor in the front, in that black section there, to relay information or commands to other LightwaveRF products, and therefore you can set it up to switch a particular device or light on or off depending on whether or not the light has reached a certain level. You can actually tell this to learn the particular light level by using a button on the back here. So you can press that at the certain time of day when you're happy that the light should change on or off. The instructions are really clear, and it doesn't look too bad. It comes with a stand as well that you can take off here, and you can also obviously attach it to the wall using these screw holes too. We use this in order to determine whether or not it's bright enough to switch on lights, and it's been really useful. It started to work with the Domotics platform as well recently, and my computer started to detect the signals. This is a LightwaveRF signal relay, and it's having difficulty focusing on this one. And what happens is with this is that you program it for a specific set of devices, and this relay then sends that command further. So it's listening all the time for commands that you might send to the LightwaveRF system. And these can be from the from the Lightwave link, or they can be from your handsets, and this device then relays that information. So you could put this somewhere, for example in the middle of a large home, and this would be ideal for boosting on the signal. It's continually, as I said, listening for several signals. You can program in a finite number of signals that it's listening to and boosting onwards. So again, this is useful for larger homes. We found it quite useful even in our flat, because we have 60s style walls which are huge and thick, and sometimes the 433 megahertz signal doesn't quite get through to all rooms, so we found this very useful. This is another curiosity which is, I think, becoming more and more rare, because I don't think LightwaveRF actually produce this anymore, but I found these really useful. These are wireless LEDs, and what happens with them is that there is a battery case on the back. I've already used this one, so there's some stickiness on the back of theirs. It takes 3 AAA batteries, and it lasts for quite a long time even when on. And basically you have two methods of operation with this. First of all, you can actually click the LED to switch it on and off, or you can register it with any Lightwave controller, or again with the Lightwave link, and just by switching it, you can switch them on or off. They're useful for places where you don't have power and you do want extra light, for example under older kitchen cupboards where there is no power, or you don't want to get too involved in rewiring, etc. They were really useful for that. I mean, if you left them on all night, I guess they would run through the battery quite quickly, but if you use them when you need to, they seem to last for quite a long time. There is an article in my blog, fabuloushomeautomation.wordpress.com, about these and how we used them to illuminate our balcony outside, because we didn't have any power out there, and we wanted to for example, have when you have an evening out there, you wanted some light, and these were very useful for that. So I kind of miss these. I don't know whether they're going to come back or whether a new version is going to come back. I think they might have been superseded by the there is a LED strip controller which is available from Lightwave as well. So this may have been superseded by that. But it's a shame, because you could just quickly stick these wherever you needed light and then control them using the system. So I just thought I'd show you the other finishes that you can get for the Lightwave RF controllers and devices, and here is the glossy black version. Looks pretty classy actually. It's very dark at night. It's good. I'm glad that we've got the silver rim, otherwise you wouldn't be able to find that in the evening. And the same goes for the plugs and the dimmer plugs. Again, they look pretty cool, and you wouldn't really mind retrofitting them, plugging a device into this. It doesn't stick out that much, and even if people do see it, it does look quite attractive. Although, as you can see, I've got quite a lot of finger marks on this one. I haven't used it for a while, so I've not cleaned it. So I've shown you some of the retrofit modules that Lightwave RF now have, and we've also got one or two direct connection switches so that you can rewire your existing UK switches with Lightwave RF ones, and they are permanently then plugged into the electric and can be used to dim and brighten certain bulbs. You obviously need to get the right sort of bulbs, and that can be a bit of a challenge because some LED bulbs don't dim as well as others, and there's plenty of information online as to which bulbs you can use with the dimming system. There's also some which I've not been able to show you on the desk. There are also switches, door switches, which can be used to switch devices on and off depending on whether a door has been opened or closed. These are useful, for example, in small cupboards where you might want some light to switch on and off as you open and close the door. And they can also be used with other home automation systems, because they do communicate using 433 MHz to use as security devices to inform you if a door has been opened or closed. So I mentioned earlier that Lightwave RF is now IFTTT compatible, and this means that you can use the IFTTT channels for Lightwave RF to trigger other things, or indeed you can use your Android phone's location and call status, etc. to update things on your Lightwave RF system. The world is your oyster with IFTTT. The more devices that you have, the more home automation devices you have, the closer you can link everything up. And for me, this is great because I like home automation rather than home control. Home control means that you have to be in control of all devices at all times, whereas home automation, you can kind of leave it to look after itself. And that is the kind of end game for any home automation system, is that you want a house or a home that controls itself, and therefore you don't need to keep reaching for apps to use it. IFTTT is a great gateway for this. Because of its availability in UK stores, Lightwave RF has become very popular, and I'm not surprised. The products are very well made, they look good, and they behave just as you expect them to. The Lightwave link connected with IFTTT has really made the difference here, because now you can control your devices not only through the internet but via other actions that IFTTT collects. So you can even do things like link it to Facebook, and to dim lights when you have a notification, or you can link it to, as I've said before, geolocation, etc., so that you can make sure that your lights are switched off when you leave a specific area, or indeed you can switch them back on when you arrive back home. So if you had a garage light, for example, and you wanted to make sure that it was on when you came back, you can do that. So in all, I think it's a really good system. We have used Lightwave RF products for many years now, and I'm very familiar with them. We also use them as part of our domotics setup, which I'll go through in later videos, which means that we have more options on how we can control them. The best thing about Lightwave RF for me is that they use a radio frequency, 433 megahertz, that can be detected by something called an RFX TRX, which is a module which has an aerial sticking out of it, and it basically is a transceiver for radio waves that can control a wide plethora of home automation devices. And I'll be going through that in greater detail in other videos. But for now, Lightwave RF as a separate system on its own is really well recommended. I would say I wouldn't have been able to do half of the home automation tasks, especially with devices without the Lightwave RF system. So if you like Lightwave RF, you can comment in the comments below, and I will see you next time.